Fire, not exactly a deck card that Merfolk wants to have to deal with. Very few answers to the card, especially game one. They do have 4 copies of Wasteland to sort of break up the Grove of the Burn Willows, but again, Jund has a lot of removal that is very effective against the fragility of Merfolk.
Yeah. And so we do see both players are underway here. William Pearson beginning with the Badlands and passing the turn back. As Derrick's going to take his turn, we're just going to look at some of the different cards in his Merfolk deck list. A lot of 4s here with the Curse Catchers, Lord of Atlantis, and all that good stuff. But 2 copies of Phantasmal Image, 2 Dismembers, only 2 copies of Daze, and he's found room for 3 Spell Pierce and 3 Standstill, as you're going to see a Dark Confidant here from Pearson.
Yeah, and Pearson's playing a fairly stock list, less, not exactly the same as someone like a Pat Cox or Josh Ravis, who made top 8 of the Legacy Grand Prix, playing Reed Duke's list. He does have 4 copies of Blood Red Elf, where some of those lists were only playing 3. Has the Goyf, the Confidence, and the Deathrite Shamans. And his removal package is 4 Punishing Fire, obviously, 3 Lightning Bolt, 2 copies of Abrupt Decay. And he also has 4 Liliana the Veil, which aren't great in this matchup, but they're actually not, they're fine game 1, especially if you're on the play. He also has 1 copy of Sylvan Library, which a lot of players are running, and 4 copies of Thoughtseized and 2 Hymn to Torah as hand disruption.
Sure. So you do see Deathrite Shaman is the card that's turned over there for Pearson that goes to his hand. There is a Graven Cairns, and you see also in his hand, you see a Punishing Fire, you see a Grove of the Burn Willows as well. So he already has the combo, for lack of a better term here, already set up against Smith. And we are going to see maybe a Hymn. Okay, so we're going to see Punishing Fire right now.
Wants to get that Lord out of the way. Slow rolling the Grove a little bit so he can at least make sure he gets an activation back from it. Hasn't seen a Wasteland yet, but he has a Wasteland of his own. So Derrik does have a Mutavault in his hand, so that's one of the few Wasteland targets that are in the deck.
You see Derrik also has 2 copies of Wasteland and that Dismember in his hand. He also has a Force of Will and a Marrow Reejerey, and right now he's considering the ramifications of, all right, if I Force of Will removing my Reejerey here, I want to leave, it's going to counter this. And he has to wonder, does Pearson actually have a Grove of the Burn Willows yet? Alternatively, he would like his Lords to be 3/3s and work with each other instead of being 2/2s, which is why you do see the main face Punishing Fire right now. This is a hard spell to counter because when someone actually plays a Punishing Fire, you know they have Grove in their deck. So countering it is very counterintuitive.
Yes, but you could be in a situation where, okay, I have 2 Wastelands, so I can kind of hurt his mana a little bit, and if he does draw the Grove of the Burn Willows, I have a Wasteland for it anyway. So maybe I just counter it here, play my second Lord, and try to control the board that way, but I think it's a little greedy, especially because his other blue card was a Lord that he had to pitch, so not really much you can do there.
And maybe if he had that Lord of Atlantis in his hand as well that he's just drawn, it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
But because he just did top deck one, as you see him play that Mutavault, it would have been hard to pull the trigger on that and have things work out his way.
And not really showing his hand yet with the Wastelands, no need to play them out yet. Happy with just playing a Reejerey. Again, William is slow rolling, so to speak, the Grove of the Burn Willows, so Derrik isn't aware that William already has that half of his combo.
And the nice thing here is he does turn over Liliana Veil. Yes, he does take 3 damage, and he does draw another Punishing Fire. He can actually keep slow rolling this, slam down a Liliana, neg to it, and still keep slow rolling that Grove of the Burn Willows, provided he does have another land. Doesn't have to expose it just yet.
No, I like actually trying for the Liliana here.
I think this is where his turn begins.
Yeah.
And so you do see Liliana the Veil here, just looking to first take care of a Reejerey and then start ticking up and attacking Derrick's hand.
Yeah, Derrick's going to be in a tough spot here. He doesn't really want to let it to resolve, but can he really afford to pitch a Lord to get a Force of Will?
Basically the same situation we were in last turn.
Exactly.
Can he Force of Will here? He didn't Force of Will last time. And this is part of the matchup, and this matchup is very, very good for Punishing Jund for multiple reasons. Dark Confidant, Liliana Veil, Punishing Fire plus Grove of the Burn Willows. But also, there are a million cards that you're going to see a Force of Will remove Lord of Atlantis that Smith actually does need a Force of Will. There's so many cards that he just wants to counter, and you don't want to play Force of Will against this Jund deck. 1-for-1ing here is not good. That's what they want to do.
Yeah, Merfolk really shine against decks like Control and Combo, where you can get cheap, efficient threats into play and then use your permission to sort of slow them down or stop a key spell so you can win the game that way. Whereas a deck like Jund really doesn't care about that stuff. It has a lot of very efficient removal spells, cards like Abrupt Decay, which Derrik just can't even counter. So Derrik can never really mount a really good offense to sort of take control of the game.
And so we're going to see a Wasteland here from Pearson, going to take out Derrick's Bayou. Might maybe see him pull the trigger now on this Curse Catcher, which we do, but we'll probably see Pearson pull the trigger now on the Grove of the Burn Willows is he's going to turn over a Thoughtseize here with Dark Confidant.
And I think Derrik might have considered maybe dismembering the Deathrite Shaman, simply because if you have your Wastelands, maybe you want to sort of keep him off mana a little bit. He did miss a land drop last turn, so it might not have been unreasonable, but maybe he's saving it just for a Tarmogoyf or eventually maybe getting rid of Dark Confidant. But you figured he would have gotten rid of Dark Confidant already.
Yeah, I mean, which one do you want to dismember there? Both of them are very good targets for dismember. You can make arguments for both, which is, you know, again, what makes it kind of difficult on the Merfolk side.
So there's the signature card, Grove of the Burn Willows, the one we've been talking about. For those of you who don't know, we'll bring it up for you. Basically, it's a red-green land that it can tap for red or green mana. Every time it does tap for red or green mana, though, your opponent gains a life, which interacts really favorably with the Punishing Fire, because Punishing Fire states, if it's in your graveyard, if your opponent gains a life, you can pay a red to return it. So very good interaction. I believe the first time we kind of saw that interaction was at Pro Tour Austin, where Brian Kibler played it in his Naya deck along with Ben Rubin on his way to winning that Pro Tour.
Really good deck at that tournament.
Yeah, very, very good deck. Punishing Fire, so powerful that they eventually had to ban it. Just because a little too powerful and kind of invalidated a lot of strategies, like Merfolk.
Yeah, it's strange to even imagine banishing this 2-mana burn spell.
Yeah.
But it was that. I mean, in combination with Grove of the Burn Willows, it did invalidate a lot of decks, and you see it kind of invalidating this deck in Legacy.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Naya. Like, a lot of decks were playing it. There was a Gifts and Given deck that was playing it as well, because you can cast Gifts and Given targeting a Life from the Loam, a Grove of the Burn Willows, and a Punishing Fire, and suddenly you just have your combo.
Yep. As we see Hymn to Torak on the stack here from Pearson, targeting Derrik, he's going to dismember, pay the 4 life via Phyrexian mana, and we're going to see here the Hymn take out the last 2 cards, last single card, excuse me, which is a Wasteland to take care of the Grove of the Burn Willows. Deathrite Shaman, I think we're going to see some mana maybe? Yep, he's going to take care of a Mutavault. Here he comes tapping for mana, and we're going to see a very large Tarmogoyf now.
So unfortunately, Williams' Hymn to Torak took out the Wasteland, which Derrik was planning on using on the Grove of the Burn Willows. So Punishing Fire now free to come back whenever William decides it's fine to.
And so they check the size of that Tarmogoyf. We'll get Tarmogoyf dice out there. Just a 5/6, no big.
5/6, 2-drop, no big deal.
Nah. It doesn't do anything besides a 5/6. As Derrik does draw an island, and we can see Pearson's hand at home. We know about the Grove of the Burn Willows. We know about the Punishing Fire both in the graveyard and in play. And Derrik can't attack. Tarmogoyf standing tall. And now those fishies are going to get lit up by fire.
Wow, so now he has a second copy of Grove of the Burn Willows in his hand, along to go with that second copy of Punishing Fire. So this game could be over relatively quickly if Derrik doesn't start drawing some gas here. But again, there's not much gas in Derrik's deck that's capable of dealing with a 5/6 Tarmogoyf, let alone the Grove Punishing Fire combo.
Yeah, I mean, this game isn't over as far as Derrik being at 0, but it's essentially over. There's no coming back from this for him, unfortunately. And I hate pronouncing games being over, but I can't imagine he comes back from this situation. This is a deck that just has too much difficulty beating Punishing Fire, Grove of the Burn Willows, as you see another 5/6 Tarmogoyf show up.
And it's certainly not one of the decks that Merfolk wants to play against, and I think that's part of the reason it kind of fell off the radar a little bit. We were all kind of surprised at how Ben Lundquist was able to do so well with it this weekend, because Jund was a deck that started rising popularity because of Abrupt Decay, because of the Punishing Fire combo. It did really well in the Open Series, so its success sort of pushed Merfolk to the wayside. And we were all surprised to see Lundquist actually choose to play that deck and actually do well with it.
Yeah, top 8 this week.
Yeah, top 8ing, dodged a bunch of Jund. But here we see again exactly why, a perfect example of why Merfolk wasn't so popular in the past few Open Series, simply because Punishing Jund has just such a favorable matchup with it.
Yeah, you see both players kind of talking here as they're sideboarding. Derrik kind of going, yeah, I can't ever beat that draw, I don't think. A couple Punishing Fires, Dark Confidant, Deathrite Shaman, 5/6 Tarmogoyfs. Let's try again in the next game. So we're going to take a look at Derrik's sideboard first, see if he does have anything useful here. You see a copy of That Was Jit, along with 2 copies of Blue Elemental Blast, Law 1, Cephalid Empress, 1 Daze, 1 Spell Pierce, 2 Cure, Great Glass Spinner, 1 Tormod Script, 2 Relic of Progenitus, and 4 copies of Submerge. Submerge is one that is going to likely come in here. Of course, William does have Forest in his deck, so Submerge is actually going to be turned on. 2 Cure, Great Glass Spinner, a card that you would think would one-up a Punishing Fire, which it does. The problem is that it doesn't one-up Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, despite Kira Glassspinner's ability where it counters the spell, Abrupt Decay gets around that. So Abrupt Decay can actually deal with Kira Great Glassspinner. And I think the Merfolk players are aware of this. Ben Lundquist had it in his sideboard, and he sort of said, yeah, I know Abrupt Decay can kill it, but I don't really have any other options around that deck. You know, I know it's a bad matchup, so I figured I'll just have one of my sideboards, sort of hedge a little bit. Maybe I'll get lucky with it. Maybe they won't draw their Abrupt Decay. And thankfully for Derrik, William only has 2 copies of Abrupt Decay, and he doesn't have any more in his sideboard. So there's a chance that Kira Great Glassspinner might actually be a factor in this matchup.
Other than that, you see 2 copies of Blue Elemental Blast, but there aren't a ton of red cards over there in William's deck. You see Punishing Fire, you see Lightning Bolt, so, and I mean, Bloodbraid Elf, you can, of course, Blue Elemental Blast, but...
Who wants to, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really getting anything done. So the rest of his sideboard is pretty meh. You don't see a lot of cards here for the Jund matchup, and part of the reason you see that is because it's so bad, it's probably a matchup that you just would rather try to dodge.
Yeah, you probably, I could see Relic and Tormod's Crypt coming in, sort of deal with the Punishing Fire that way.
Take care of the Death Rights and the Tarmogoyfs.
Exactly.
As well.
I think Kira Great Glassspinner is obviously coming in. I don't know why I keep calling it it's Kira Great Glassspinner.
Yeah, that is it.
I keep adding kite to it for some
reason. I mean, it's a mouthful. It's a mouthful.
So Kira's probably coming in. Tormod's Crypt and Relic Vaginas probably coming in. Obviously, Submerge pretty good on the play because he's going to try to tempo William out as much as possible. Obviously, removal makes that very difficult, but it's the best plan that he has available to him. He can't be a control player really because there's just too much removal. So I like the Submerges. I like the Graveyard removal. I like Kira. I also don't mind the Jeté. Again, Abrupt Decay, a very good answer to Jeté, but maybe you just need to get lucky a little bit and hope they don't draw one of their 2 Abrupt Decays. And Jeté is still very good against creature-based decks.
Now, taking a look over here at Pearson's sideboard, he's already got a very favorable matchup game 1. You see him actually sideboarding in more cards here. If I'm Derrik Smith, I'm going, really? You have more cards for me? And the cards you do see are just in your face.
Yeah.
4 Pyroblast.
4 copies of Pyroblast. Quite good against the mono blue Merfolk deck. Besides that, he also has 3 copies of Mindbreak Trap. Probably not coming in this matchup. He has 3 copies of Duress, which you would think against the blue deck you might want, but then again,
this deck's so creature heavy.
It's very creature heavy, so I'm not quite sure Duress is where you want to be. He's got 2 copies of Nail Spellbound, which probably aren't coming in, 2 copies of Surgical Extraction, and the Maelstrom Pulse. I definitely like Maelstrom Pulse in the sideboard coming in just because of the Lord plan, there are situations where you can actually 2-for-1 with the Maelstrom Pulse, getting double Lords.
Yeah, you can snag 2 Lords depending on how their draw lines up, and if you don't, then it's just a Vindicate, which is perfectly fine.
Exactly. So definitely like the Pyroblast, definitely like the Maelstrom Pulse. In his main deck, you know, I don't think he wants to board out any of his removal spells like Lightning Bolt, Punishing Fire, Abrupt Decay. Thoughtseize, I think you still want that because, again, it can deal with Force of Will. It's also a way of dealing with the Lord, so don't want to really board that card out. Sylvan Library, it is, you know, sort of like a 5th Dark Confidant almost, so it gives you a little card advantage. Maybe he doesn't really need the Lilianas or the Hymn to Torix anymore because that's not really his plan. He doesn't have to go after the hand. He just overloads on removal. So maybe I could see Pyroblast and Maelstrom Pulse coming in for some number of Lilianas and Hymns, just hedging some of those numbers a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just sideboarded into a deck that's just awesome creatures and Deathrite Shaman, Confidant, Tarmogoyf, Bloodbraid Elf, and then just a bunch of removal.
Yeah.
And I think that's all that he honestly really does need to do to get the edge here. Bloodbraid Elf is going to more often than not cascade into a removal spell. Dark Confidant's going to draw him into either lands, awesome creatures, or awesome removal spells. And then that's just all he needs to have. He doesn't really need to him his opponent and make him discard 2 cards. Just whatever creature he plays, just kill it.
Yeah, Thoughtseize is really the only targeted hand disruption rather he needs. He doesn't really need the Hymn to Torix in this matchup. That's more for combo decks or control decks. Derrick's deck really isn't either. Liliana the Veil, while it was okay game 1, it obviously forced Derrik to Force of Will it. Not really where you want to be, particularly after board, even especially on the draw. So
as well with 4 copies too. You know, maybe you shave the 2 Hymns and then 2 Liliana the Veils, make it so that you maybe have 2 to draw to, and then you just sideboard those out for the Pyroblast, and you just get to work that way.
Yeah, I would probably just go down to 1 Liliana and bring in the Maelstrom Pulse as well.
Yeah, because you can snag 2 guys with that Maelstrom Pulse.
You don't really want a Liliana. You don't want to draw Liliana, but if you Bloodbraid Elf into it, it's fine.
Yeah, you don't mind that. But you don't want a hand clogged with Liliana, so you certainly can't leave 4 or 3 of them in. So we'll see if he does choose a sideboard that way, as both players are shuffling up here for game number 2. Derrik Smith certainly does have his back against the wall, not only being down a game, but in a pretty poor matchup here right now.
Is William wearing a Team Stream t-shirt?
That's actually Stream Team
Stream
t-shirt.
Team
It's a nice
t-shirt.
shirt. Nice shirt.
It is a
I don't
nice
know. I don't know
shirt.
where he got that or who makes those, but whoever it is a genius.
Is he affiliated with you for somehow, or did he just win that t-shirt from watching your stream?
I think he won that one.
Okay.
Oh.
So I'm not going to say who Cedric's rooting for because he's completely impartial.
Completely impartial.
Although William is taking a mulligan here.
That sucks.
So
Wow.
that's a little help for Derrik again, but
Unbelievable.
unbelievable. William gonna mulligan aggressively to the 2-card hand of Punishing Fire Grove of the Burn and will still probably be 80%.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's tough. Like, you know, as you said, Merfolk was a deck that we saw see a lot of success a couple of years ago, and then, you know, these things just came up to really destroy it. You saw, you know, Stoneforge Mystic Batterskull be a huge problem for the deck. You see Punishing Fire Grove of the Burnwillows. People have moved that way to get a leg up in the Jund Mirror or against a deck like this that some people still do play. Punishing Fire plus Grove of the Burnwillows, you know, it's embarrassing when you play against the old combo deck. But when you're playing against some of the more fair decks in the format, your Stoneforge Mystic decks, your Merfolk decks, some of your other creature decks, that's where it really does shine.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's one of those fair decks. We've been seeing fair decks all weekend, like Esper Blade, Bug, Rug, and all we've been saying is the fair decks are really good against other fair decks if you play them correctly, not very good against the unfair decks. Merfolk is one of those decks that's the opposite. It's a fair deck that's actually good against the unfair decks and not good against the other fair decks. So, kind of a strange position to be in because in general, there are going to be more fair decks in a Legacy tournament
Than an unfair deck.
deck.
Yeah.
But Merfolk is some of those strange situations where if you do manage to make top 8 with it, they could end up randomly winning because they just get the great matchups in top 8.
Yeah, I mean, this is certainly a matchup deck, as you said. If it plays against those combo decks and, you know, those show and tell decks and stuff like that, I think it's very happy. And if it plays against the Abrupt Decay decks or, God forbid, the Punishing Fire Grove of the Burnwillow decks, as Smith is right now, not so happily, as you see him daze a turn 1 Deathrite Shaman here from Pearson, and he does have an Aether File, and you know, again, I don't think that William minds that much that that's getting dazed as we see a Dark Confidant here.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good start for Derrik. You get turn 1 Aether Vial, which is huge for this deck.
Yep.
Stops the Deathrite Shaman from entering play, which could just accelerate William's draw. He even has a Dismember for the turn 2 Dark Confidant, so exactly where Derrik wants to be. He can follow this up with a Lord, and it looks like he even has a Force of Will in his hand.
Okay. So he is going to draw a card here. Vial's going to tick up to 2. Another Curse Catcher, an Island. You see his hand of Force of Will, Curse Catcher, and Lord of Atlantis. The problem here, and this is, you know, what Derrick's doing and what Merfolk does, it really plays into Pearson's hands, because all that Jund wants to do is 1-for-1 you into Oblivion.
Yeah.
And, you know, cards like Dismember, yes, you did kill a Dark Confidant. That's awesome. That's a 1-for-1. That's all that they want to do over the course of the game. So you do see that Forcible in that blue card, and yeah, that might counter the next spell, but then he's out of cards, he's out of gas, and he's just playing at the top of his deck, hoping to maybe draw in a Silver Gilded, maybe Standstill, a bunch of different cards like that. So if we're going to play this 1-for-1 game, it favors Jund all day long.
Definitely. And William actually has the card advantage engine in Dark Confidant. Obviously, it was killed with the Dismember, but a card like Standstill, that is a card that can bring Derrik back into this game, but he only has 3 copies of it. Whereas Derrik has 4 copies of Dark Confidant, and he even has 1 Liliana, perhaps, if he kept that one in. So either way, it's interesting that Derrik actually has a lot of removal, but he can actually generate more card advantage than Derrik can.
Yeah.
So he's, like you said, he's very comfortable with doing this 1-for-1.
And now you're going to see Punishing Fire take care of that Lord of Atlantis. Curse Catcher, yeah, go ahead, make me pay 1 more. I don't mind.
And now what do you do if you're Derrik? Do you actually pitch your Curse Catcher and Force of Will this? I think you have to, right? There's really, it's not something you want to be doing, but at least if you top deck a Lord, you can tick up your Aether Vial maybe, or you can sneak it into play in response to another removal spell.
Now he drew a blue card. Here he comes for 4. Is that a Standstill maybe? No, is that not a blue card? I thought maybe it was. Well, maybe it was, okay, we think it's a Submerge. Okay.
So yeah, Standstill's really, Derrik needs a Standstill there because that's the only way it's going to allow him to stay in this game.
Yeah.
Because Williams is just going to keep drawing removal spells, and eventually he's going to get that Grove of the Burnwillows and get that Punishing Fire back.
So now we see a Bayou, and he is just going to pass the turn back here. So Derrik is going to draw a card. Not sure what that draw was. As you see a Lightning Bolt in his hand. Here's a Lightning Bolt to try to take care of this Lord of Atlantis. The draws were Submerge into Dismember, so two removal spells, but nothing that's going to add to the clock.
Yeah, not really what you want in this matchup. So, looks like Lightning Bolt is going to resolve here, unless Derrick's maybe thinking of
I don't even
using
know.
a Submerge.
I don't know if it can he submerge his own guy.
Yeah, we'll bring up Submerge on the screen for you because it's probably not a card that the average player is too familiar with. Although if you play Legacy a lot, it's probably something you've seen. So
and he is submerging his own guy.
If an opponent controls a forest, which William does, you can play it for free, and the ability is put target creature on top of its owner's library. So he knows how valuable that Lord is, decides to submerge it and put it on top of his library. Again, he saved it for the turn, but now he loses a draw step. So he expended a card, and he took away his own draw step.
Yeah. And now here comes Bloodbraid Elf to the party.
Speaking of card advantage.
Feel free to submerge that. As we're going to see the Cascade trigger. Wooded Foothills, Graven Cairns.
And
just one man to vindicate.
Might as well just deal with your Curse Catcher, why not, for free, and attack you for 3.
Yep. And this matchup, it's just such a nightmare.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's very difficult for the Merfolk deck to deal with. You have to take these aggressive lines where, like, you're casting Submerge on your own guys. You're actually pitching Force of Will against a Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, you just have to take
it's so you're playing. You have to play this really strange and awkward game where you're dismembering a Bloodbraid Elf. It's like now he knows he's gonna be top decking the Lord. You're just giving up so much to try to eke out a win, and you just have to get very lucky and hope that William just keeps bricking.
And you see his hand. He is not bricking, as here is another Bloodbraid Elf. We're going to see a Cascade here. I think I would have preferred to leave with Dark Confidant that turn, just because, if you Cascade into a removal spell, which your deck is just full of, or Liliana the Veil.
The straight up best Cascade.
Which he doesn't want to tick up because he has a Dark Confidant in his hand. At least I don't think he wants to tick it up. He knows Derrick's card.
Yeah, he knows it's the Lord. Yeah. So Lord's going to get Aether Vials into play. Yeah. Probably just pass the turn back.
Yeah, it's strange not to use the Planeswalker, and he's going to attack here.
All right, so Derrik can just choose to go after the Liliana next turn, which is fine. Liliana won't die unless Derrik draws another Lord.
Yeah, this forces him to draw a Lord right now, and I think he actually drew a Marrow Reejerey, which is like the wrong Lord to draw because you can't predict you have one 3-costing card spell in your deck, and it's an island, so never mind. But he's going to attack that. William's going to draw a card. Is that another Bloodbraid Elf?
No, it looks like it's a Nile. Is that a Spellbound?
I think that is it a Spellbound?
He does have copies of Nile Spellbound in the sideboard.
Yeah, okay, that does look like it is a Nile Spellbound. And here's your Dark Confidant.
So there's the Dark Confidant.
We're just going to tap a Wasteland.
And yes.
For the Nile Spellbound, okay.
There's Nile Spellbound. So he can uptick it now. Yep. Both players have an empty hand, so it doesn't really impact anything. And I
believe that draw step may have been a Silvergill Adept. Not 100% positive, but we'll find out what it is in just a second, of course. As you do see Derrik reaching for the Aether Vial here.
Considering maybe a second Lord, Silvergill Adept.
Yeah. So there's your Silvergill Adept. So here's your cantrip. That's going to draw an island. And it's pretty easy to forget here is, you do see the back and forth. One thing that you forget with Bloodbraid Elf, of all the insane things that it does do, it's pretty easy to forget that, it does attack for 3, and you see Derrik is at 5.
Yeah.
It doesn't even feel like he's at 5. It feels like he's like 18.
Yeah. Yet, Bloodbraid Elf, the haste, 3 power, everyone always just forgets that, you're getting a spell, but you're also getting an attacker.
Yeah. And so there's Tarmogoyf off a Dark Confidant. Derrik going to draw a second card for the turn. And you see his hand of Lightning Bolt, that, and a Wooded Foothills. So a fantastic hand. He's going to clear the way. I think he's going to attack for lethal.
He should be able to attack for lethal. Yeah. Sack your Liliana to force Derrik to sacrifice a creature, cast Lightning Bolt on one of the creatures and attack for lethal.
Yeah. He even can just go upstairs with Lightning Bolt too.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter what he does as long as he
Derrik has no cards in his hand.
As long as he doesn't target himself.
Yeah, don't target yourself or one of your creatures and you are fine.
Yep, and so there's your lethal attack and there's a handshake. So William Pearson with Punishing Jund getting probably the best possible pairing playing for top 8. Defeats Derrik Smith and his Merfolk deck, and he'll be moving on to the top 8. Congratulations to him.
It must be a nice feeling. You're back against the wall, you have to play it out for top 8, and you get the absolute best matchup imaginable.
Yeah, and just doing it with like the nicest shirt I've ever seen, too.
Very nice, yeah.
Really, really just impressive.